Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And amid all the OpTic Texas roster drama of the last couple of days, one of the key strengths for OpTic last season and at the start of this season as well was their SMG duo of Scump and Shotzzy. Shotzzy, unbelievable playmaker, Scump super consistent. That was one of their key pillars of success at the start of 2022. However, Octane now believes that it's Scump who is outshining Shotzzy, and maybe Shotzzy is the one that needs to improve to get OpTic back to that level. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to dive into. Firstly, from Morks, we saw just the other day, he confirmed his retirement from competitive Call of Duty. This probably is a classic competitive COD player retirement, where he retires 2 days later. He says, actually guys, maybe not, as he says here. I didn't include this in my tweet, but I'll probably, most likely, return in the next tryout game. So I guess waiting for 2024, and then he might come back again. So I'm not sure what he's going to do between now and then, but yeah, I still love COD and competing, just don't enjoy Modern Warfare 2, and feel like if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, I can't be at my best, which is probably fair enough, but still kind of interesting, right, that he announces his retirement, and then 2 days later says, actually, yeah, I'll probably be back in 2 years' time. So we'll see if it works out for him. Hopefully, obviously wishing the best for his career and his life in general. Quick note on the Vaznev, because there's been some drama now. I'm sure this is getting overshadowed in the pro community right now by other factors and roster drama that is in play, but some have still been pushing for the Vaznev to get banned. A lot of AR players want this to happen. Even Octane was kind of talking about this the other day with certain, certain kills that were being had with the Vaznev that look arguably too good in certain circumstances. Not sure I agree personally. As long as we have a nice meta where it's, relatively balanced between the ARs and the SMGs in terms of what is getting used, then I'm relatively happy with it. But yeah, nice kill there for me, to be honest, and that's why Octane's like, okay, yes, got to get rid of this gun ASAP. I'm sure a lot of ARs would be down for it, but I think that some teams would be hurt, especially teams that are more SMG dominated, as arguably OpTic will be after their upcoming roster change, whatever it is going to be. They're, of course, going to Major 2. Boston hosting this one, of course, in Boston. Excited to, and I think I said this before, but I will actually be there in Boston for this event, so very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you guys out there, and yeah, so January the 30th qualifiers start. I think I'm flying out for maybe the Wednesday or something, so it's definitely going to be a fun one, and from what I've heard, it's going to be a banger event in a great venue, so looking forward to all involved on this one, and yeah, of course, methods and City and methods with a 4 in it or whatever, whether this, well, that this team could perform as well with the Scar as they can with the M4. Maybe they need the Vaznev band to improve yet again. But let's talk about the Los Angeles Thieves side, because of course Octane's been frying on the content side the last few days. He's been giving some, let's just say over this break, some questionable take. Well, some things are questionable, some things are probably facts, but I do think it's very interesting how the community perception differs sometimes to the pro perception. And of course Octane plays these OpTic guys largely day in, day out, has a lot of experience playing against that team with Scump and Shotzzy as the SMG line, and he has a rather different opinion, I would say, to what some of the fans believe when they look at some of these players. And well, we'll share it in a second here. Now, he didn't stream yesterday, unfortunately, so the streamer had to, take a day off. But there was a tier list video that came up from Ben J. Nassim. He put together his tier list of the best SMGs in the game. We saw his tier list the other day for the AR players. There was some, well, obviously Octane was calling Dashy a bit overrated there, so he's been commenting on all of these. The Flex tier list as well he did, and also the SMG. So SMGs, there's more players, a bit longer. We'll have a look at his entire tier list in a second and see whether it's fully accurate, because there's some things I would change, but it's probably not too bad, to be honest. But Octane gives his thoughts, and it talks about Pred and Sib, but also talks about Scump and Shotzzy. Now, Octane's always been a big fan of Scump, I think, in terms of his playstyle. We know that he played with him a few years ago on the OpTic Dynasty team of the World War II days. Definitely not a Dynasty if you guys were around back then. But, since then, I think even in Cold War, he said pretty much outright that Scump was OpTic's best player towards the end of their year. He gassed up Scump a lot last year as well in terms of his ability and what he's doing on the map. And even this year, he now says that putting Scump and Shotzzy on the same level in the all-star category is unfair to Scump. He reckons that Scump is a step above Shotzzy right now. Shotzzy should drop down to what is effectively the A tier or the B tier, depending on the way you look at it. I would say the way Ben's got this sorted is kind of A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. So I would say he's thinking, okay, put Shotzzy down to what is effectively the B tier, an impact player, but not a superstar right now like he was arguably at the start of last season, saying that Scump is better than Shotzzy right now, but if Shotzzy improves, then OpTic are kind of unbeatable.
I'm putting Ant in impact because I think Seth is just like slamming this year. Seth's been playing out of his mind. I don't think Ant is quite as good as Seth is right now at this game. And I think if Ant is playing like insanely well, then they just win because Seth has been relatively consistent. So I think for that reasoning, I would put Ant in impact. Anyway, but whatever. I think Ant is good, but I just think Seth is better. So having them in the same tier, I don't agree with. But it's the same reason. Like if Shotzzy's playing super well and Seth is like being as consistent as he's been all year, then I think they win. Dude, it's tough to say because like Seattle is a weird dynamic. I feel like you know what you're gonna get out of Pred and Sib. Like Sib's gonna have the most damage in the lobby. Pred is like gonna do Pred things, but I feel like Mack should be an impact player because if Mack is playing well, again, the chances are they're winning. And like, does that make him a gap filler? I feel like that's like more of like an impact statement, no?
So I think that to a certain extent, Octane's on the money here, especially what he says with regard to how if Scump and Shotzzy are playing well, the team is incredibly difficult to stop. I think we saw that especially at the start of last season when OpTic went on that crazy, 15 map control winning streak, the 12 series win streak they had between stage 1 and stage 2 of last year. Yes, part of that was helped by Dashy just dropping 1.3s, especially in control, but I think a large part of it was the SMG duo of Scump and Shotzzy being just so impactful. Shotzzy was unbelievable at the start of last season. Scump was very good as well, and they had arguably the best SMG duo, I would say, in the game at the start of last season. Nowadays, it feels like a different story. I don't know if this game's kind of the way the movement works in this game means that Scump is better suited to a flex, although I would prefer to see that, I think, right now. But Shotzzy also seems to be struggling a bit more. I don't, again, know if it's the movement thing, just because, there's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of years when we go into a non-side cancelling game. Is, Simp going to struggle? Is aBeZy going to struggle? Is Shotzzy going to struggle? I don't think we're necessarily seeing that. I mean, Shotzzy is still very impactful at times, but he's not quite what he was at the start of last season. And Octane might be right to say, you know what, Shotzzy right now is a level behind Scump. Scump's been more consistent, and Shotzi's got to step it up a gear really in order to make them work. Now, I think part of why Shotzzy might be struggling a little bit right now is because the team isn't performing, and sometimes when star players, as Shotzzy is, on a team that isn't performing, there's a tendency there to try and do too much. I think Shotzzy maybe feels sometimes he's got to make this crazy route, got to make this crazy play if the team's got a chance to win, whereas if the entire team in the AR line was playing better, because I still think right now the weakness in that team that they had at Major 1, iLLeY and Dashy, was in their AR line. I think the SMGs were still pretty damn good, all things considered, but Shotzzy maybe feels like he's got to do too much, and therefore it actually hinders his impact. So, I mean, yeah, Octane reckons that effectively Shotzzy right now B tier, Scump A tier. I'll just run you guys briefly through this because I guess we've got down to the D tier here, which is Prolute and TG on the Vega side, and also Havoc and Vickle that haven't been so good so far. Gap fillers he gives to Nasty, Mack as well is here, and also Bance and Vivid and Nero, of course. And then I think what's quite interesting, you get to the top. So, I mean, obviously Hydra, Kismet are up here, Pred is up here, I think Afro is for sure up here, Simp as well. Putting Simp and aBeZy in different tiers is a little bit interesting to me just because, I mean, first of all, the Kenny one is a bit of an outlier to me. Now, I know that he was including last year as well, and given the fact that Kenny did win back-to-back MVPs last year, you've got to probably give him the benefit of the doubt. But in this game, Kenny's been one of the worst players statistically so far. So, it depends how you're ranking the players, if you're just thinking overall, or you're thinking as things stand in this game. And, I mean, yeah, I guess you've got CleanX and Standy here. You can't put everyone in the top two, even though I think that maybe it's interesting with Toronto, right? Because I think a lot of their players would fall into the impact players category, but yet as a team, they just seem so good. So, I don't exactly know if that's true or not. So I guess we'll see how that might go. But yeah, having aBeZy down here in effectively the B tier with Simp in the A tier was a little bit spicy, I thought. Just because if you'd have said, 12 months ago that Simp and aBeZy would not be or both considered absolute best of the best SMG players going into a new game, or after the start of a new game, I'd have said you're kind of crazy because they should always be S tier. But yeah, not right now it seems, and I think this is maybe justified based on recent performances as well. But just giving some evidence towards what Octane has to say, because I mean these were Shotzzy's statistics at the start of last season. This is for the first part of last year. He had a 97 rating, a 1.2 in Surge, 1.08 in R, 1.08 in Control, like crazy amounts of engagements really, damage per 10 minutes was really high. Like this was his full year so far back in April last year, so quite a significant portion, 2.5 stages or whatever of the season. These were his numbers then. These were Scump's numbers at the same time. His Search and Destroy wasn't so good, but still his Harpoon and Control was pretty damn good. But last year at this point of the season, or at least at April 2022, Shotzzy was considered basically the best player in the game, if not the best SMG in the game for sure. Scump was just behind him, or not too far behind him, but at the time they were basically the best SMG duo. When they struggled, iLLeY went out. He never seemed Shotzzy quite so comfortable when Prolute was there, and then since the team hasn't been performing so well, certainly at the start of this season, I don't know, Shotzzy hasn't been quite the same player. Whether that's just because he doesn't feel so comfortable in this game, whether that's just a team dynamic thing, because I think that can often happen that players who are still incredibly good, you don't see the best of them when the team dynamic isn't very good, when the comms aren't working, when the teamwork isn't there. The players individually aren't going to look so good, whereas they're still the same player there, but you just don't necessarily see the peak version of them because the actual team dynamic isn't working so well. So I think that might be what's going on here, and so far in this game, I do agree with Octane's assessment. Scump has been the better player than Shotzzy. Now, in fairness, a lot of Scump's great performances at the start of this stage were with the M4 in hand. When he went to the major with Vaznev, it wasn't quite the same deal, but nonetheless, Scump's been, in terms of that role, probably more impactful than Shotzzy has so far, and basically what Octane's saying is Shotzi's got to step it up a gear, and I think that part of that might just be change around the team dynamic, give Shotzzy a new SMG duo, if that's a Huke, if that's a Predator, whoever it's going to be, put Scump on the flex. That's what I would love to see. I think it does make the most sense for these players' playstyles, and that might be the way forward for this squad. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all that stuff in the comment section below. Do you think that, Octane's right on this issue, or, is Shotzzy still a better player or equal to Scump at least? On that SMG line, quick note as well on Dashy, just because it does seem he's going to be on the bench for OpTic right now, and it doesn't seem so clear that he's going to be able to easily go the other way to Surge, so he's probably stuck there for quite some time, maybe not quite some time, maybe about a month or so, because, look, Stage 2 is coming up soon, very shortly indeed, and after Stage 2, I'm sure further teams will make moves, because after Stage 2, with 3 more stages to go until the World Championship, there isn't really that long left to make significant moves. You can do so, but after Stage 2 is probably the perfect time for teams to make changes if they're not performing after 2 stages, because the first set of matches in Stage 1 is always a little bit, always a little bit volatile. Anything can kind of happen. You can get some surprise results and some surprise winners. After Major 2, things are really starting to shape out. Speaking of those qualifiers, this I thought was cool from Brian Stats here. So we saw earlier today, these are updated qualifier records all the way from Cold War Stage 1 to present day. Kind of funny how Simp has a better record than aBeZy because he missed that one series last year against OpTic when Pristini subbed in for him. So he has a 38 in 10 qualifier record, which is pretty absurd to think about it. But yeah, these are the other ones. But these are the only players that have played in every single one of those games. So Scump has played in all 49 qualifier matches since Cold War Stage 1. So is Dashy, so is Shotzzy. iLLeY, of course, is not. Cellium is here, Arcitys, aBeZy, Kenny, Envoy, Octane, Attached Priest, Mack, CleanX, Bance, Awakening, and Skies. But everyone else that may or may not be on this list has missed some for various reasons. Whether that's because they were bench roll well, whether that was because they were stuck in the Europe, like, Zero was, couldn't even compete that season because of the visa stuff. Same issue with Nasty, or whether there was some injury and illness or whatever, right? Because, of course, as I mentioned with Simp, he was meant to play all their series, but had to miss that one due to illness, I think, when Pristini subbed in the kind of Stage 2, I think it was, last season. But, yeah, I guess you kind of can see the amount of turnover, right? The fact that there's only, out of the 48 players in the league, there's only, how many have we got here? What, 5, 10? Like, we've got 16 players that have played in all of those matches. Shows, I think, how much turnover there is in the continent and how difficult it is and how higher level player you have to be to stay consistently in a starting team all this time. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.